It's so funny that I was going to open this video by saying that we got Akane yandere eyes, which were honestly extremely creepy, and I never wanted to see that. But we also got Kana yandere eyes, and then we got Ruby yandere eyes. It's like everybody's giving yandere eyes this episode. But no, I was actually very surprised that we got something Ruby in this episode. Again, I've made arguments before that it feels like she's literally just become a background character. Like, there's no purpose to her even being in the show anymore. Like, I would hope that they would at least do some stuff on the side with her, at least showing that she's still progressing with what she's doing. But no, it's just been mostly focused on this acting. But no, we got a little brief moment where somebody makes a comment that Aqua's staying out late with Akane all the time, and that, you know, the only reason they would do that is because they want to get happy with each other. And Ruby's literally like, no, he would never do that. Like, out of nowhere, she just becomes like super serious mode, which is great because I think for the most part, ever since the passing of Ae, we have not seen anything with Ruby and the past, something that is still remaining with her. And I think Aqua even sees that. Aqua made that comment in the previous episode about the fact that Ruby is moving forward. She's looking to the future. I don't want to dredge up the past. This is a sign that it's still there with her. Despite the fact that she puts on this positive facade, she still hurts. She still has something in the past that she can't let up. And that does make sense that this kind of triggers it. This idea of what happened to Mother? What happened to Ae? She got pregnant very young and the man left. She doesn't want Aqua to do that same thing. He would never do that because he knows how terrible that was for Ae. He would never make that same mistake. And I would despise him if he did. So it's like, whoa. Okay, out of nowhere, Ruby getting super serious. But yeah, additionally, like later on, her giving her contact information to this Kamoshida guy, and literally Kana's like, no, girl, these guys are playboys. Get rid of that. Let me block it. It's good to get contacts. There's a lot of good people to get contacts with. But yes, if one asks you for your contact, they're probably just sleeping around. Anyways, but that was pretty much it for Ruby. She did show up later on. Some people made some comments about how beautiful she is and how their genes are really good. Yeah, I wonder where they got their genes from. But no, majority of this episode was just around the rivalry between Kana and Akane, which I do like an evolution of this to some extent, because I think everything before now is pretty much been a sense of the two of them competing over Aqua. It's really been kind of almost painting it as that pretty much being it. That Kana is jealous that Akane is in this relationship with Aqua, and at the same time, Akane does not want to lose to Kana. But now we're pretty much bringing to surface more that these two have been at fuse with each other for a long time. It kind of gives a sense of like, yeah, technically like the previous episode, seeing Akane being extremely jealous that she can't go after Aqua, and that Akane gets this boyfriend-girlfriend pass, but it really is deeper than that. It is really something much deeper than that, and the idea that Kana being this kind of child genius, and how she's only pretty much living off her past, and then you have Akane who's the opposite. They've both been acting for the same amount of time, and even Akane looked up to Kana. I love when she brings out that interview. The one you looked up to most was, oh, it was me. Staff, there's a fan back here and they're creeping me out. You need to get them out here. A fan got through. And she's like, stop. And then she throws the bell pepper thing at her. Critical hit. You can't beat Kano. You're too serious. And then she literally does the bell pepper dance, and it's just like critical hit. It was great. But no, again, it does make sense. This idea of the old and the new is really what it is. And I do see the significance it is to Kana to be Akane, because, like she says, she believes that everything that she says is cemented. Like, whatever she says goes. And she said, apparently at some point, you're writing off your past and that you'll never be that good again. And thus Kana, in order to refute that, she has to be Akane. That's what she feels. That's that rivalry. And yeah, the two of them have been spatting at each other for a long time. You know, all the insults that Kana gives her, all the death glares that Akane gives Kana, they're constantly at each other's throats. So now to have this moment where, yes, they're technically, conveniently on competing sides in the play, yes, that turns into that rivalry. But that part is technically interesting, the idea that you have Himekawa, Taiki, he's pretty much like, essentially gets really into his acting. So it kind of seems like, oh, well, Kana's going to win because I'm at her side. And I think that's really just the fact that he gets very seriously into whatever he's doing. Not so much that he cares about Aqua or beating Akane. It's just, this is my role. I'm going to get into it. And then you have on the opposite side, it sort of made it like Aqua was getting into it, which I thought was kind of surprising. At some point, you had the director guys like, you know, he's really getting into this. He hasn't been this into his acting in a long time. And he's wanting me to teach him all this stuff. And he's getting really into it. But he hasn't gotten over his trauma yet. He's doing this emotional acting really good, and he's getting way into it, but he still hasn't gone over that trauma. And we see that with the end of the episode. And it was a side of me that was almost going, but why is he getting so into it now? Why is he pushing himself so much now? I think it's really because he sees this as an obstacle. From the outsider's perspective, it almost seemed like Aqua was getting into it because he wanted to compete against Himekawa, Taiki or something like that. No, he just literally is trying to get over this ghost that's within him, this thing that's dredging back up, which I'm curious why he's doing that now, because it did imply, from the director's perspective, that he has been trying in the past. Like, he has been acting as a child for quite a while. People were telling him that he's a genius. They were basically lying to him. That's what Aqua thinks. He was never good. He's good at copying things, but he's not good in the now. Like the director says, your problem is that you're too busy trying to do an incredible acting job, but not giving them what they actually expect, what the actual writer and creators want from you, what they expect from you in that moment. Even Akane sees that. Yeah, he's got this pre-scripted idea. He doesn't have any emotion in the scene itself. But again, the director's saying, even back then, he would collapse because he was trying to do the emotional acting back then, technically. He was recalling these old memories. That's why he did so well with that whole drama. It's because he was recalling the guy that literally killed Ae. That was what was so cool about that scene, was like, holy crap, that's so messed up that he's literally playing as his mother's killer. That's so wrong in a sense. But here, yes, he's pushing himself even more so now than ever. What re-sparked that is going to be the massive question mark. And I was hoping they would get into it at the end of the episode, other than implying that he's trying to get over this ghost. This past self, every time I see Ae's face, every time I try to do this emotional acting, which is what he has to literally do right now, is the scene of her death. Every time I try to think about that, every time I try to think of a happiness, he dredges back up. Every time I think of Ae's face, he dredges back up. Which that was interesting. Because again, in the previous episode, it implied that he was fine. Well, he wasn't fine. He got hurt by thinking about Ae's death. But then Kana said, think of something happy, for the fact that this character that you're portraying realized that she's not dead. It wasn't until when he thought of something happy that it dredged up. So why does thinking of Ae's face dredge that up? Unless he's just strictly thinking about Ae and how much he enjoys her. I mean, the picture that he has on his phone is a happy Ae. But anyways, like I said, I'm very curious to see what's pushing him now. Why now? Why is it now that he's pushed? Is it because he knows that this is game time, and if he doesn't nail this performance, he's not going to be able to rise up in the entertainment industry? That's the assumption. But why did it take until now that he did that? I guess the answer that I can come up with is the fact that Kana will come up to the idea that he sucks, and that if he wants to do a good job here, he's got to ramp up the emotion. Kana showed him something that he never thought of before, which is the emotional acting, the idea of dredging something up and trying to act to that. And he realized probably at some point, hey, that really works, and I really want to rise up in the entertainment industry, so I need to do this. And that's why he's pushing so much with the director. So, anyways, all cool stuff. Back to Kana and Akane. Yeah, the earlier segments of this episode, again, good girl. Akane just really kind of pushing herself to want to support Aqua. You know, he saved my life. I want to support him. I want to lift him up. Whatever I can do to bear his burdens. And yes, it all leads to her asking, why do you act? You don't seem like you like it. Why do you act? Yeah, you won't believe me if I told you. What are you acting for? Well, I want to. She enjoys it. Akane just enjoys it. And then when it goes back to Aqua, she says, man, you always talk about communication, but you kind of suck at communication. All right, I'll tell you. What if I told you I want to kill somebody? What would you respond with? And like I said, the dead eyes. I always struggle with eyes like this. It's like the whole situation with right after Ae died, where that style changes and the character's eyes just go blank. It's a bit too much for me, honestly. And I mean, like I said, Kana does it this episode, Ruby does it this episode. It's an over seriousness where just suddenly the character just becomes dead. And it's like, I understand what it's portraying, but at the same time, it's really creepy and it kind of just pulls me out of the mood. But yeah, what it's portraying here is obviously Akane's like, sure, if that's what you want to do, I'll hold the knife. Tell me where to stab. I'll help you. Again, it makes sense to Akane's character. This is a person that was literally on that edge. Like, she was dead. At that point, she chose, I am dead. And Aqua is the one that came up behind her and grabbed her and said, no, not yet. And again, helped her get back on her feet. He literally resuscitated her. He breathed life back into her. And thus, yeah, if you want somebody gone, let me know. I'll be right there with you. I'll carry that burden with you. He's like, man, don't say that so easy. It's fine. I'll do that for you. And it is kind of crazy that she doesn't get into details why she says that, but I think Aqua can probably draw the conclusions. If he's not drawing the conclusion here, something wrong with you, boy. I mean, he doesn't say it, but it's like I would expect that he can draw that conclusion. This girl is dead set on being everything for you because you are everything to her. So, which was kind of sad because there was a side of me that was like, dude, don't say that. Later on when Akane and Kana are having their kind of spat, at some point they drag them apart, and Aqua goes off to the side with Akane and is literally like, she's talking about how this girl's so mean and so annoying, and he's like, yeah, now that you mention it, she's always been that way. I remember back, he recalls these memories back here when him and Ruby were just like hating her. And he literally says, yeah, I remember at some point I wanted to kill her. And I'm like, dude, not the thing to say after the conversation earlier. Literally, Akane would be like, all right, cool, let's go kill her now. This is the person you wanted to kill, right? She's not the one that you wanted to kill? Oh, crap, sorry, she's dead already. It's like, no, that's not something to say to a yandere character right now, dude. Thankfully, it didn't go any farther than that, but it was still. Other than that, yeah, we had a little brief moment with this Kamoshida guy hitting on what's-her-face, the big-chested girl, and yeah, that didn't pan out for him. And then at some point you had Melt was making some comment that he shouldn't be, keep things professional, that's a friend of the sister of Aqua, that you shouldn't do that. And the guy's like, literally, dude, are you lecturing me when you suck at what you do? Like, if you want to lecture me, you better be better at what you're doing than that, all right? You're the worst actor here, and you're going to bring everything down. It continues to push the whole thing that Melt's going through right now, where he's trying to do better, which, I don't know, everything's kind of lining up to him doing some insane performance on the stage. I don't know, I would be more appreciated if he just does good. Like, just do good. Have Melt just get up there. He did a passing performance, and everybody's like, man, you improved because you weren't at least crap. I don't expect him to get on the stage and do some amazing stuff. But yeah, the whole later part was amazing. I love the animation they had, the moment that they kind of established that Kana was a rivalry of Akane. The idea is she just walks out there and literally says, yeah, we're probably rivals. Yeah, I need to prove myself because I'm the old, she's the new, and if I don't beat her, then I can't disprove that. I'll always be yesterday's genius. And she just like draws that blade and goes up to Akane. And then for some reason, Himikawa does it as well. Goes up there with Aqua. It's all like dramatic. It's just like, okay, yeah, you guys are going crazy. And then they come back out there and their effects start going off of them. The animation was super good. And yeah, the way that they portrayed the later scene with Aqua and him basically looking at his ghost in the mirror, how the fact that it was basically, technically the first part of it was his mirror image, then it switches over to his actual self and talking about how he's trying to overcome this issue, that the fact that he's pretty much overcoming his lack of talent with his own method of acting, which is literally driving into his dark self. And symbolism as well with the eye turning black. But no, there is an interesting thing here. Like I said earlier, that why is he pushing himself? Why now? Why is he getting back into it? Like, again, the director literally said he's getting back into it. This is his old self. This is where he was really trying into something. And the question was, why now? Again, I think it's important that he does nail this, and he's realized this is my best way of doing it. I've tapped into something that works really well. But the problem is that every time I tap into it, my old self comes up and it yells at me, and I have to get over that. This old self with this rage and regret, I have to overcome that. Otherwise, yes, like the director said, he's going to have a panic attack. Now, it would be interesting, what I kind of expect that's going to happen is because they're dredging this up so much, because they're flagging into this so much, my expectation is that when they have the scene where Akane's character dies, or when it has that fake out moment where the character thinks that she's dead, I think he's going to do that emotional acting. He's going to recall Ae. He's going to try to push himself to think of something happy, and he's going to start breaking. And I think what's going to happen is he's going to have a panic attack on the stage. But I think what's going to happen is maybe Akane is going to try to get him to snap out of it, and it's probably going to make the performance even more believable, because he's going to be literally traumatized and nearly vomiting on the stage. People are going to start panicking. The director's going to be like, oh crap, he's losing it. And then Akane is going to have to like snap him out of it. And it's going to make everybody flip out that this was the most incredible acting ever, even though he's literally like reliving his trauma. But that's kind of what I expect is going to happen. And the other thing that I'm questioning is, will Kana overcome Akane or Akane beat Kana? because basically both of them had been laid out to having a benefit to beating the other. My hope is that there's a hope for me because I like them both and that I feel the stakes for both of them, that I want it to turn to one of those things where it's a wash. That everybody just loves the performance, but neither one of them is actually held up as the winner. Because yeah, Kana can't lose because she's already lost before. That's why she wants to win. So if she loses again, it's only going to be a cementing of what she's being told. Again, she has to beat Akane in order to prove that she's not yesterday's genius. Whereas Akane, she has to win because this is the person that I've been trying to beat for so long. Now, it can work thematically for Akane to lose, to be proven that Kane is not just some old relic, and that she was right for actually looking up to Kana. So it still technically works if Akane loses, but I don't know how thematically you can play out Kana losing because it's just her getting her face rubbed into what she's already had it rubbed into before. So that's my prediction. It's either going to be a wash, or hopefully, for the sake of the thematic storytelling I'm doing right now, that Kana wins. Or who knows, maybe this will be a big falling point for Kana, a realization that I will always be a loser, and then maybe somebody has to pick her back up. Maybe she gives up on acting because of this situation, and she just focuses on the idol stuff. That could be as well. Anyways, I've talked longer than I thought I was going to. Really, really good episode. Even though I was kind of hoping that this whole stage play thing would be complete at this point, I still enjoy it. It's like every time I go, I think they need to move on. They don't move on. And I'm like, thank you. It worked out. So just keep doing what you're doing, Akazaka. Just keep doing what you're doing. Anyways, that's my thoughts on episode 16, ? Yes, of Oshinoko. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, hit that like button down below, comment, let me know the episode. Additionally, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe before you leave. If you like this content and you want to support the channel more, I have links in the description below. Greatly appreciate it if it does. Until next time, y'all take care.